once upon a time, in the days of black and white flickers, a trio of women rose alongside the quickly evolving industry. To fans of the silent era, these sisters are among the most iconic and influential stars from the very early days of cinema. If there truly was a trio who personified the days of the 1910s and 20s, it would be Norma, Natalie, and Constance Talmadge. The story of the Talmadge sisters begins on May 2nd, 1894 in the town of Jersey City, New Jersey, the birthplace of Norma Talmadge. She was the eldest of the three sisters to Frederick and Margaret Peg Talmadge. The family soon relocates to New York, which would be the birthplace of Natalie on April 29, 1896, and Constance on April 19, 1898. By the time all three sisters were born, Frederick walked out on the family due to his alcoholism, leaving Peg to raise her daughters on her own. Taking care of them in the town of Brooklyn, she'd take up a variety of work to support her girls, including laundry duties, selling cosmetics, offering painting lessons, and renting out rooms in her home. Her dedication to her daughters would pay off one day when Norma came home from school and told her about one of her friends who modeled for illustrated song slides. For those who don't know, this was where a performer would sing a song that was either live or recorded before a film. It was essentially a pretense for what would become the modern music video. Peg saw the opportunity and helped her daughter get hired too, and once she saw her sing at their local theater, she was determined to help all her children make their mark in the cinema. Founded in 1897, Vitagraph Studios was a local film company in Brooklyn. Norma got the attention of screenwriter Betsy Breuel, who arranged her debut in The Household Pest. Sadly, from what I've been able to find, it's a lost film with no surviving copies still circulating. Constance followed in her sister's footsteps in 1914, making her debut in the lost comedy short Bridal Attire. The two would perform countless bit parts for Vitagraph during their time there, with Norma making over 100 performances between 1909 and 1914, and Constance making a little over 30 between the years of 1914 and 1916. By this point, a small little conflict arose that you might have learned about in school called World War I. While the US wouldn't get involved until 1917, the country nevertheless made its alliance clear, casting Norma in the 1915 film The Battle of Peace. The plot centered on the US getting invaded by the fictional country Yemen. From what I've been able to find, the movie is, you guessed it, lost. So there's unfortunately not much info I've been able to find about it. But a fun fact about it is one of the film's supporters was none other than Teddy Roosevelt. And by August, the family packed up and headed out for Hollywood for better opportunities. Now, before we get any further, it's important to note that Natalie had the shortest career out of her sisters, mainly because she just never had any big interest in acting. So if it feels like I'm not saying a lot about her later on, that's why. And with that out of the way, let's get into how the Talmadge sisters marked their names in the history books. Despite only being in its infancy, Hollywood had quickly become a home for the new film industry, with many directors and stars alike finding much new success out west. Among them was director D.W. Griffith, who's best remembered for making The Birth of a Nation, aka the most overrated movie of all time. But he's also responsible for the 1916 film Intolerance. As the title implies, it's a series of stories discussing cases of hatred and injustice throughout human history. Ironic, I know, but that's not the point of this video. The film is relevant for today's topic for admittedly being a really good film, it's linked in the description, and for giving Constance her first big role as a mountain girl in the days of Babylonia. Her performance was actually so commended that Griffith re-edited this section of the movie as its own feature a few years later titled The Fall of Babylon. The sisters were making a good transition to Hollywood for now, and it only got better when Norma met producer Joseph M. Schenck. For many, he's best remembered as the producer for many of Buster Keaton's shorts, but he's also the honors of being Norma's first husband. Their relationship was one of love and creativity, with the duo forming the Norma Talmadge Film Corporation in 1917. The film's first production, Panthea, was a success at the time, but is now considered lost, with its last known showing being in 1958. Over the next 6 years, Norma and Constance would act in about 4 to 6 films every year, with Natalie preferring to work behind the scenes in a variety of work, often as a secretary for her sisters and also a writer and producer for the Komicki Film Company, where she worked alongside stars like Roscoe Arbuckle and Buster Keaton, with some of the work she did including Roscoe Arbuckle's shorts Out West and His Wedding Night. She'd also fall in love with Keaton and marry him on May 31st, 1921, with their romance resulting in her most popular performance during her career as his lover from A Feud in Family in the 1923 classic Our Hospitality. The 20s were really the years of the Talmadge sisters, success after success in business and romance, and a legacy that many silent film fans still look back on with glee. Though, like many careers throughout history, the sisters would eventually come to an end.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you, you ain't heard nothing. You want to hear Toot Toot Tootsie? All right, hold on. Toot Toot Tootsie.
In 1927, a new form of technology was ready to change film once again. Sound. Many, and I mean many, stars struggled and sadly weren't able to keep up with the new technology and were either forgotten of or just chose to leave the industry. For the Talmadge sisters, they knew they were on their way to being viewed as icons of the past, deciding to hang up their acting days voluntarily. Apparently, when fans would approach Norma following the sound transition, she'd simply tell them, "Get away, dears. I don't need you anymore, and you don't need me." It was also the end of an era for their mom, Peg, who passed away on September 29th, 1933, leaving behind a legacy of blood and sweat that made her daughters a golden trio of the 1920s. The trio would live quiet and reserved lives, investing in business ventures like real estate, and would make a handful of public appearances later on in life. The curtains would finally rest for each sister respectfully, with Norma passing away on December 24th, 1957, Natalie on June 19th, 1969, and Constance on November 23rd, 1973. Like many icons from this era, the rise of the internet has made it easier than ever to access many of their works that remain today. Seriously, just look up some silent films on YouTube, for example, and have a ball with the gold you can find. It's not always at the highest quality, and most of their work, like countless stars of the era, has unfortunately been lost to time. But that doesn't stop us from getting an insight into this moment in history when the Talmadge sisters were on top of the world and marked their legacy in the silent era.